All right, let's dive into a story that is just incredible. It starts with almost no money. We're talking less than 10 bucks, and ends with a legacy that's literally priceless. It's all about faith, history, and, get this, a single trunk of books that completely changed the game. So, it all kicks off with this number right here, $7. $7. I mean, that's barely enough to grab a sandwich in New York City today, right? But that little amount of cash, that was the seed money for something absolutely massive. Let's paint a picture. The year is 1965. A monk, Srila Prabhupada, shows up right in the middle of New York City, and everything he has to his name is that $7. That's it. Well, that's not entirely true. He had the $7, sure, but he was also carrying something that would turn out to be way, way more valuable. It was a trunk, and it was packed with his translations of these ancient sacred texts. So here's the big question, right? How in the world did a bunch of books in a suitcase go from that to becoming priceless historical artifacts? I mean, artifacts that are now hitting million-dollar valuations at auction. That's the story we're going to unpack right now. Okay, so to really get how valuable these things became, we have to rewind. We've got to go all the way back to the beginning, back to that humble suitcase and the massive mission it represented. I mean, think about it. His resources were basically zero. But his mission? It was huge. He wanted to share these ancient spiritual teachings with the entire Western world. So in that light, those books, they weren't just paper and ink. They were everything. And look, these books weren't just some symbolic thing he carried around. No way. Right from the get-go, they had a very real, very practical job to do. They became the actual foundation for, well, for everything that came next. You can really break down their importance into 3 key roles. First, financial support. This was his lifeline. He'd sell sets for around 20 bucks just to pay for rent and food. Second, credibility. You show up with these professionally printed books, and suddenly you're not just some guy. You're a serious spiritual teacher. And third, they were his teaching material. They became the core of his very first classes. So, you see, they were his income, his resume, and his textbook, all rolled into one. And this quote just perfectly captures the sheer hustle involved. This wasn't some passive thing where he just sat and waited. Nope. He was out there, on the streets of New York, physically lugging these heavy books around, knocking on doors at libraries, universities, talking to anyone who would listen. It was a mission built on pure, unadulterated grit. Okay, so that's the beginning. Now, let's fast forward, because over the next few decades, the way people saw these books, it just completely changes. I mean, a massive transformation. They go from being tools to spread a message to becoming priceless artifacts. And the shift is just staggering. Seriously, you have books that were sold for 20 bucks just to make ends meet. And now they're seen as these incredibly rare historical artifacts. It's the exact same object, but its cultural and, yeah, its financial value has just exploded beyond anything you could imagine. And what's really interesting is that the demand isn't just coming from the spiritual community he founded. Oh no. Today, these first editions are being hunted down by serious rare book collectors, by historical institutions, even by the big-name auction houses. Their importance has just grown way, way beyond their original purpose. So that begs the question, right? If you're lucky enough to have one of these, something so rare and so valuable, how do you even go about selling it? That's where we get into the strategy. How do you handle the sale of a sacred, historical object that could be worth $1 million? Well, for any high-value item, there's kind of a standard playbook. You start by getting it professionally cataloged and appraised to figure out what it's worth. Then you pick your format. Are we doing a live event, an online thing, or both? After that, it's all about finding the right buyers, marketing to them, and closing the deal. It's a pretty standard process, but for something this special, that basic playbook isn't going to cut it. To actually hit that $1 million mark, you need a strategy that's just as exclusive and just as special as the books themselves. And this is where it gets really interesting. We're talking about a blueprint for what you might call a sacred sale. This is a plan that's laser-focused on high net worth buyers, people who get both the investment side of it and the deep spiritual value of what they're looking at. So, to get to that $1 million number, it's all about one word: exclusivity. We're not talking about putting this on eBay, okay? We're talking about high-profile, invitation-only events. You'd probably partner with a respected celebrity or a major spiritual leader to give it that extra weight.
You'd arrange private one-on-one viewings for the really serious buyers. And maybe most importantly, you change the whole conversation. You're not just buying a book. You're making a major art investment, something with incredible historical significance that's almost guaranteed to appreciate in value.
And really, this whole story just leaves you with this one big, fascinating question. When an object goes from being a simple tool for survival to becoming the symbol of a global movement, what is its true value? Is it just the number on the check at the end of the auction, or is it something else entirely, something you can't really put a price on? It's just an amazing look at where faith, history, and money all collide.